And what is bad about this space is everybody will lump everything in together. So we know that one of these big projects is going to go to zero.
Correct.
And they will go to you and say, see, Gary, it's all a bunch of shit. You're just conning people. And this is the annoying thing.
And I'll say, if I was making content in 1999, when I told everybody the internet was the most important thing that had ever happened in our lives, and the stock market collapsed, and it was death on Wall Street, and everybody who invested in pets.com shares went to zero, I would say, okay, but guess what? Amazon's $5 a share. I think you should buy it.
Yeah, exactly right. Because when you look back on the chart of the NASDAQ back in 2000, it's feel really dramatic. It now looks like a little small bump on the road because what came after it was in that.
And I think what keeps me calm at night, lets me put my head on my pillow, is there is no way NFTs, or by the way, the word NFT could change. That's how early we are.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we called social media Web 2.0. Right? We called the internet the information superhighway. We used to say, go to http://www. Like, I don't care what you call it. I can tell you right now that in 2039, people will use digital assets the way they use physical assets to communicate to each other. And there's no doubt in my mind.
And physical assets will also be recorded on the blockchain as tokens as well. So we could all buy a property together in Manhattan that's a $50 million apartment and share it amongst 100 people. And, you know, all of this changes dramatically. Your point there was funny, back to Aaron Battalion. His first point was leases, mortgages. Like when he was explaining the smart contract, it just blew my mind. I'm like, this is incredible. Like, yeah, I don't think we've even begun to innovate. How about this? How about if you're lucky enough today to sit with an incredibly unusual property, like a home? Let's just say you're an extremely wealthy person and you have just a very unique home. Well, I think you blockchain it, and when you sell it, you put in a royalty that says you make 2% on every transaction of this home in perpetuity. Particularly one day you're build it, like I built my house here in Little Cayman, and you know, maybe eventually.
Why wouldn't you? Like, I can tell you right now, if you decided to sell it, let's say we became friends over the next 15 years and I wanted to buy it for some reason, right? When you're like, hey, by the way, there's a 1% royalty in the contract, it's not going to matter to me.
No.
But I'll tell you who it's going to matter to, your great-great-great-great-grandchildren, when it changes hands for the 5th time and for some reason they get a $800,000 check in the mail or an $80,000 check in the mail, they're going to be awfully happy with great-great-great-great-granddaddy figuring out why he understood the blockchain.
The other thing I'm looking at is also IP rights. So let's say you're a pop star, you've just started your career, and to your community, you sell the first year's IP rights. You share in them. And they pick the song that they think is going to be a hit. There's going to be millions of people on TikTok trying to explode the content, getting it everywhere, because that's their job. In that,
I couldn't agree more. Early on, back in December, January, 6 months ago, I was trying to explain it to friends. I was like, okay, I had one friend very into music. I said, you know how you like find new bands and you love that and you take pride in it, and when they get big, you get upset and they've sold out? I go, you're not going to care. You're not going to be upset anymore. He goes, what do you mean? I go, let's play it out. Let's say Nirvana decided to give up 20% of their IP in NFT form to fund them so that they didn't have to sign a record deal. Let's say today that you were one of those earliest fans in the grunge movement in Seattle and you bought some tokens. Let's say today, every day you wake up and you look at your bank account and Spotify, because Teen Spirit is being streamed as many times as it is every day, and you own 0.3% of the royalty that they're getting. This is going to be, there's a whole counter to what we're about to say that will play out 20 years from now that will change the world in a way that you can't imagine. The purity of culture has been incredible because it wasn't economic between the end audience and the person. There was always something in between. But over the next 30 years, here's what will happen. First, in the first 10 to 15 years, is what we just talked about. Culture will become financialized. Value, community, brand, it will become more literal. The back half of that 30-year period, people will start to game that, and the purity of it will actually have an issue. And that'll be very interesting to watch what that actually manifests. But let there be no confusion. That statement was the most important. As much as I've been yapping, the tokenization of culture is exactly right.
It's the only thing I've been thinking about the whole time. And it's going to be a big fucking deal.
It really is. It's the biggest thing. I've looked at this whole crypto space. I've been in it since 2012, and I've been excited about the whole thing. And all of it is less exciting than this tokenization of culture, the kind of NFT plus community stuff that's coming, plus the metaverse is like the biggest thing I've literally ever seen.
I think that's right. And I think, I don't know if I have more respect for the OG or enthusiastic Bitcoin community. They get mad at me when I do podcasts, but I always say to them, please don't be mad. I'm actually complimenting. I think it's so big that I'm just curious what sovereign nations are going to do. I don't know what else to tell you. It's actually the greatest compliment. It's not an insult. I don't not get it. I think I get it so much that I'm like curious because I think it's, a big deal and really cool. And I love that. But I do think that what is a far bigger conversation is the tokenization of the gray of society, which I think is a $1 industry. And I think we're in the pre-dawn of it. And I think the cat's out of the bag. And I think these next 30 years are going to be iconic.
And hopefully we'll both be at the forefront of it.
Yeah, and hopefully for me, I'll be honest with you, I, for a long time ago, realized I was going to make all the money I ever wanted for myself. Because the truth is, the only number I ever had in my mind was $100,000 a year. I came from very humble beginnings. That was the only number that I really thought about. I definitely want to be at the forefront, but I want to bring the most people to the forefront so it completely changes their lives. And one of the reasons I chose this podcast out of all the ones that I got bombarded with is I really appreciate what I think you're doing for your community as well. And I understand how you navigate, which is probably why you understand how I navigate. And I cheer for people like that. So thank you for having me on. I hope this discussion helped some people. And this was fun.
Yeah, thank you for coming as well. And look, I think this is really important for people to understand. What is going on is a big opportunity, and it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, everybody can participate.
Yeah, I mean, look at Axie, look at Board Ape Yacht Club. These are things that were incredibly inexpensive, and this is a transcending half decade in front of us around this, with the potential of an 18-month winter within it, which is going to be an incredibly fun thing to watch of people who they have conviction and who doesn't. And so I just wish everybody great luck, but most importantly, do homework. Do not be influenced by me, him, or anybody else. Do your homework, rely on your strengths, make your own decisions, and play with things that you can afford to lose. I think the opportunity is real as well.
Thank you, my friend.
Cheers. Thank you, my friend.